Hello everyone and welcome to Imbibe Live's Champagne Cocktail Masterclass. I'm Aleesha, I'm a wine writer, judge and presenter, and I will be your host for what we are billing as the ultimate cocktail showdown. But let's face it, it's a win-win for everyone here because you get to get champagne tiddly at 10:30 in the morning. What's not to love? So we are going to be pitting modern against classic. So in the modern corner, we have Emily Chipperfield, Head of Bars, Training and Development at Couleur Calais, which describes itself as serious nonsense, which I love. And in the classic corner, we've got Melania Battiston, Head Somm and Wine Buyer of Medlar Restaurant in Chelsea, which describes itself as a modern European restaurant. So I think it's fair that we give the ladies a chance to introduce themselves at first, and then we will let the battle commence. So Emily, please can you just give us a brief overview of your history and how you got where you are today?
Cool. So I have a very British name, and as you'll be able to hear very quickly, I'm not British at all. So I'm French. I worked a little bit in Australia and then in the UK. I started working both with cocktails and spirits. So most of what I've worked with is actually champagne and whiskey. Today there's no whiskey, but there's a lot of champagne. And currently I do work at Couleur Calais. I'm the head of bars, training and development, which even my coworkers have no idea what that means. It's the best part of the job title, if nobody knows what I do. So yeah, I work across all the sites that we have: Couleur Calais Shoreditch, Couleur Calais Chelsea, Lillibet, and the Duchess of Dalston.
I love that, working with champagne and whiskey. And just describe to me a little bit, what does serious nonsense mean, and what can we expect that to give to your cocktails today?
Okay, so Couleur Calais is a reference to the Jabberwocky from Lewis Carroll. So there's a lot of references to Alice in Wonderland and that whole world. We are not an Alice in Wonderland themed company, but it's more that idea of how it's a very serious author writing a nonsensical, or poem made of nonsensical words. And Couleur Calais is what they say when they rejoice. So everything that we do is about take your job seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. So it's about high volume, fast pace, really fun serves, like just having a good time whilst having really good drinks at the same time.
That's great. I love that. Taking your job seriously, but not yourself seriously. I think everyone in wine world could appreciate those words. And Melania, please explain a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melania, and I'm the Sommelier wine buyer at Medlar Restaurant, as she said, in Chelsea in London. I came to UK 5 years ago, supposed to study marketing, and then everything fell apart completely. I started to work as a barista because the only things that I was able to make as a good Italian was coffee. So that's how I started. And then, thanks to this Master Sommelier, I got into wines as well. I started my double SCT, got into the Court of Master Sommelier, and now I wish I will become the first Italian Master Sommelier female in the industry. So not much about cocktail, I must say, but I do love champagne, and that's why I'm here today. And I hope you're going to enjoy all these drinks.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. The first Italian MS. So when will you possibly know about that?
Well, possibly next year. I got my first chance to try. So next year, hopefully at this time. Let's hope.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Perfect, ladies, to be joining us on this challenge. So I think we're going to start with Melania and the French 75. So explain a little bit about this cocktail, what's in it, and where the name's from, etc.
Yeah, so French 75 is a classic, is a celebratory cocktail. It's elegant, but it's definitely headier than it looks. So French 75 has got many different stories. The first story say that apocryphal stories say that it was invented in the trenches. So actually the soldiers had the access to all the ingredients, don't ask me how, including champagne. And the only thing they were making French 75, instead of cocktail shakers, they were actually using empty shell casings. Then in 1867, Charles Dickens as well was speaking about French 75. He used to pour Tom Gin and champagne cups to his literally lions from Boston. And the French 75, as we know it today, actually appears for the first time at the age of Prohibition in 1927 in a really small, humorous magazine, New York magazine called Iris Ow. And they actually say that the French 75 is what made the Allies, yes, won the war. because they kind of like both the Allies and the French 75 had their own way like to knocking you flat. Okay? And the name of French 75 actually comes from a piece of our French artillery, which is a gun, a 75 millimeters gun called the Howitzer gun. And it was known like for firepower, the speed, the efficiency, like the French 75, like all like knocking you like with remarkable precision. Okay, so let's start to make this cocktail, I shall say. So very simple, just like literally like very few ingredients. So we're gonna start with some lemon juice and some sugar syrup. So mixing 7.
And if people don't have sugar syrup just in a bottle, very easy to make. How does one make it?
Very easy to make. You got just like some, in a shaker. Some warm water and some sugar. You mix it, you stir it, and like you're gonna have your sugar syrup. So 7.5 ml of sugar syrup and 15 of lemon juice. So the sugar syrup and the lemon juice. So of course the sugar syrup is going to bring this slightly sweetness. The lemon juice, the sourness. They need to be lovely mixed together, but needs to remain inconspicuous in the cocktail because we want it very sleek and transparent. So after like the mixing, we're just going to pour some gin. So 45 ml of gin in this case. Sorry. And this gin is Nika. Is a Nika gin. Nika is a producer which is very famous for whiskey. So they produce just 12,000 bottles, so really little production made of corn and barley. Nika, in this case, is very famous because you have this strong herbaceous edge and a strong citrusy note as well. Sometimes the bracing citrus bitterness can put off the drinker, although it can lift really the cocktail to the next level. So we're just gonna put some,
And do the base spirits of that gin change the texture at all when you're drinking it?
Sorry, would you repeat, please?
The base spirit, so you mentioned it was barley and corn.
Yeah, barley and corn.
How does that, what does that bring to the cocktail?
Well, I think in this type of, with this gin, what you want is this beautiful floral, fruity character without being too overpowering because it got the prettiness of the champagne. And you don't want to ruin the prettiness of the champagne, right? So we need to use something very delicate like this gin is. So we just shake quickly.
That's everyone's favourite noise, right? Well, maybe, except for the popping of a champagne cork.
Oh my, got stuck. Okay, right? And then we can, of course, always a chilled champagne glass. And we're gonna pour our mix into the glass. So this is our base.
Oh, this is the best bit. That's the only reason you booked here, right?
Now, I'm a sommelier, so I pay a lot of attention on the wine that I'm choosing, on the champagne that I've chosen today. In this case, I chose Brice Champagne, which is coming from the Montagne de Reims, a region in Champagne which is very famous for Pinot Noir. So the blend in this champagne will be 70% Pinot Noir and 30% Chardonnay. The Pinot Noir brings a bit more the structure. So it's going to stand up against the flavor of the sugar, and the lemon. While the Chardonnay in the blend will bring slightly more appley character, pear character. So it gets this multi-dimensional sensation in the palate. Sometimes champagne, they can be way too yeasty, way too bready. Woo! I was supposed not to do that, but it's fine. Please apologize. Please forgive me. So as I was saying, champagne sometimes can be way too yeasty, way too bready. So it's going to overpower the lightness of the cocktail. We don't want that. So, and we're going to finish with a lovely lemon peel.
And is there a reason why you've chosen the flute as the
Well,
Festival.
I think like it's a classic, like to put this lovely French 75 in a flute. Another thing, why you use champagne is the biggest part of the cocktail. The champagne is not wasted. It's a tribute to the French heritage. So please don't put prosecco in your. Even though I'm Italian, please don't put prosecco in your French 75.
You're going to get kicked out of the country for that.
Nothing. Being a sommelier, when in food pairing, I would love to have a French 75, maybe with some salmon, maybe with some smoked trout, something quite light. Maybe if someone is vegetarian, some crostini with some lemon ricotta on top. Very nice and cheerful. So, cheers to all. Enjoy.
Cheers. Ah, delicious. I'm a little bit jealous that no one's giving
can
me
have a
one,
bit.
but it's all right, everyone. Emily, let's go with your cocktail.
Yeah, so for my drink, this drink I created back in June when Moet asked me to, so Moet et Chandon asked me to create a serve with Moet Rosé, and the whole theme of that serve was meant to be make it royal, so taking classic cocktails and topping them up with champagne to make champagne as a category accessible to just anyone, even for people who would maybe only drink champagne, for their birthday and Christmas. And the best thing about cocktail bars, I've seen that a lot in the whiskey world, is taking some categories that people are not used to drinking and bringing them into serves that might appeal to them or that they wouldn't have thought of. So now I thought, okay, Moet Rosé is one of my favorite champagnes. Now, what's another one of my favorite cocktails, my favorite classic, is a Charlie Chaplin. There's a cute story as well that I always tell about how Charlie Chaplin was my favorite cocktail, and my boyfriend got me the original copy, or one of the original copies of the Old World of Bar book, so printed in like the 1930s, and it was the first time that Charlie Chaplin ever appeared in writing. So it's in glass display in my living room, so now that's all I talk about, and I bring that cocktail everywhere. But yeah, because I have not just, obviously, I love the drink, but I have also an emotional attachment to classics, which is what makes your favorite cocktail. There's loads of really delicious cocktails, but some of them you have a more, like a greater affinity towards. Now, again, it was for an online event, so I thought, okay, when you're gonna batch, lime juice into a pouch for an online event that you're gonna ship with, Royal Mail, which is so reliable, you don't really know how it's going to arrive. So we decided to clarify it through milk clarification. So this drink does contain milk.
I just want to repeat that. This milk does contain milk, yeah?
And essentially everything is in the bottle. If you've never had a Charlie Chaplin, you have sloe gin, apricot brandy, and lime juice, all in equal parts. So obviously the sloe gin and the apricot brandy will give something very fruity, but because there is no sugar syrup, all the sugar comes from the sloe gin and the apricot brandy. It's also very tart, and it's in equal parts with lime juice. So you also have a drink that's not sweet yet very fruity. Adding the milk and clarifying it with milk is actually making it it gives a great texture to the drink as well. And it's also something that's very easy to pour. Again, when we were talking about serious nonsense and high volume, fast pace, it's about having drinks that use great techniques, that are very precise, that will be delicious every single time, so consistent, without having to wait 50 minutes at a bar for a drink. So everything is in there. If you've never clarified anything with milk, okay. It's a technique that, again, I'm playing with that idea of, is it classic, is it modern? It's a technique that is very much used today in loads of cocktail bars, yet it's a very old technique for increasing the shelf life of some fresh products such as citrus. So you would put all your punch together, so your apricot brandy, your sloe gin, your lime juice, and then you slowly pour it into milk. As the pH of the milk changes, you're going to see it curdling. But what that creates is that essentially the whey is going to capture all the color elements. Obviously, if you're using something that's very pink, you're going to have like a light hue like that, which goes perfectly with the Moet Rosé. And you're just going to strain it out. I use coffee filters. You can use, the kind of, if you've ever made cashew milk or oat milk at home, you have those fine strainers, like those mesh. These ones can be used as well. They just need to be passed a couple of times. And it creates a delicious drink that's shelf stable. So if you remake it at home, you can make a big batch and bring it out, have a glass every now and then.
And does it matter if it's full fat or semi-skimmed? Or?
Yeah, full fat is better. Full fat is better.
And if you make this at home, how long could you have that in the fridge for?
Technically, you'd a long time.
A long time.
A very
great.
long time.
Enough for you to drink all the bottle.
Yeah.
That's what we needed to know.
I'm not exactly sure what the exact shelf life is.
I'm
but
sure it wouldn't last that long.
No, it would.
No, I
because,
mean like it wouldn't
yeah,
last
in
that
general,
long
yeah.
in my house anyway.
But that was the whole point of a milk punch, is that it pretty much makes it stable.
Amazing. So tell me, I know you touched on it,
Yeah.
but why the rosé again?
Why the rosé? Because again, all the flavor notes that you have in the rosé, you will find again in the Charlie Chaplin, those berry flavors, those fruity notes, and because I knew obviously that we were serving the French 75 as well, you also find that sweet sour topped up with champagne. Woo.
Fantastic. It's a gorgeous colour there.
And then it's equal parts.
please
So I think I should pour a little bit more of the punch because that glass is big. But yeah, you've got equal parts punch to champagne.
And is it a
Sorry.
Royale in the same sense as, you know, a
Understood.
Kia
No,
and then a Kia
misunderstood.
Royale? It's just
Yeah.
the adding of champagne.
When we refer to Royale, we usually refer to something topped up with champagne.
And that's across
So in
the
this case,
cocktail board.
across the cocktail world, yeah. In general, when we talk about Royale, it's something that gets topped up.
And when you are, I know you just spoke there about, you know, Charlie Chaplin,
Yeah.
cocktail was a really, you know, had a historical relevance to you. But when you're coming up with inspiration for modern cocktails, where do you get them from? Books or films or?
There's a bit everything. Usually, when you start your career in hospitality, and especially in the world of cocktail, you learn classics to understand how structure works. So ratios between sweet and sour, why certain serve work straight up, shaken, stirred,
Perfect.
built.
Thank you.
And then you
Amazing.
start from there and you learn extra techniques and you'll find flavors. You know, you go out for dinner and you find a spice you've never used before and you think, oh, if I made a sugar syrup with that spice, that would make a completely different new serve. Yet I'm using a very classic structure.
You must be constantly looking for things on the look for amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
if you've ever lived with a bartender, it's not always. We think it's fun, but it's sometimes a bit annoying.
Great. Now you've had a chance to try the
everyone.
first two. We're going to open the floor up to questions if anyone's got any. Going to come round with a mic. Hands up. Anyone got any questions? You're all not quite lubricated enough yet to feel the confidence of asking a question. No? So, I'll ask a question then. Do you have any? Oh, is that for me? Oh, look. Thank
can try
you.
both now.
That's what we want. If people want to find out a little bit more about cocktails and learn how to do them, etc., do you have any other people to recommend or suggest, or books that they read, or people that they follow? Like, where would I start my cocktail journey as a beginner?
I think if you go to bars, just ask the bartenders.
Just go drink in the bar, I like that.
We love talking about what we do, and it's true. So ask bartenders, because I think very often when you first start, even if you have a nice cocktail book or a recipe, you're not able to figure out what you're doing wrong at home. Like the number one mistake people always make is never putting enough ice, because they think bars, you top up with ice to, I don't know, save on an extra 25 milliliter of tonic, and like, no, there's a reason why we use a lot of ice.
I did think that. I'm going to confess up.
Yeah, no, but everybody does, and it's fine until you're at home and you think, why is my drink too diluted and not cold enough and doesn't taste the same? And like, well, ice. Again, if you've lived with bartenders, you wonder why there's massive Tupperwares of Blanc ice in the freezer and frozen Nick and Nora's inside. Yeah, that's what we do. We're a bit obsessed.
And
So I'd
when-
say speak to your bartenders.
And when you like first have a drink like we've got here, you're chilling the glass. Why would you do that? What does that help the
I think
cocktail
it's
to
like
achieve?
it's like a pass. Like
Sorry?
if you have, it's like a pass. If you have a hot food, you want to put it on a hot plate. If you've got a cold drink, you want to put it in a cold glass.
Just that
Yeah,
kind
excellent.
of, you know, little bit of perfection. I love that. Great. Shall we move on to the
Why not?
second classic?
Absolutely. So second cocktail. So the first one, Frank 75, to me is a really summery cocktail. So as we said, it's crispy, it's elegant, it's refreshing. While the second cocktail that I'm going to make today, which is a classic champagne cocktail, will be opening like the new season, will be opening autumn. So more colorful, kind of remind you like the beautiful like orangey color of autumn. There is a bit more sweet, like sugar into it. It's slightly more rustic and it's more powerful. So like perfect, I think, for a warm evening, like, I don't know, in front of a fire. So champagne cocktail is one of the oldest cocktails that you will ever find. So the first mention was in 1855.
Wow.
In this little book by Robert Toms, where actually says that the good things in life are having some champagne cocktail before breakfast and smoke 40 cigars daily.
Oh,
I don't know if this is a good thing in life or not. Definitely not healthy, but well, who are we to judge? So champagne cocktail is a really simple cocktail with really few ingredients. So that's why we need to find always the type of the best ingredients to make this cocktail shine. So we're gonna start with like some little like sugar cube. I prefer sugar cube rather than loose sugar, simply because it creates like the point of having the sugar, except for the sweetness, to add a touch of sweetness, is to create like these endless fountains of bubbles. So by creating this, it's just like dissolved sugar, you create this beautiful movement inside the glass, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna place in our chilled champagne glass, we're going to place just a sugar cube at the top, and then we top up with some Angostura bitter, just to give slightly more aromatic, slightly more spiciness. I will say that a couple of dashes will be absolutely perfect, but it's based on your taste as well. If you like slightly more aromatic, more flavorful, then add slightly more dashes.
This is starting to look like a science experiment that I did at
indeed,
school.
it looks like. So just a couple of dashes, I would say, and we place, so the napkins will absorb the essence of the bitter, and we place our little sugar cube now infused in the champagne glass. Now, the most important part would be the cognac. So the cognac, since there is such a few ingredients, we want to pick, as I said, the best quality. We don't need an XO, we don't need something incredibly extra aged, but we want a bit more flavor. And like the more a cognac is aged, the more flavor it gets. So we're just gonna pour like 10 ml of cognac. So just usually it's above like just the sugar cube. So if you don't have a measure, like just above the sugar cube would be absolutely perfect. This cognac is a VSOP. So very special old, very special old pale, and it's been aged in some oak barrels for 8 to 12 years. This extra age, as in wine, it brings like more toastiness, more nutty character, slightly more caramelly flavor, more toffee. So this rustic charm that the champagne cocktail always have. So yes, and then as to finish, we're gonna top up with champagne. So do you remember this book that I told you at the beginning, this one wrote by Robert Toms? So he speaks about which champagne to use for a champagne cocktail. And he actually speaks about Champagne Mum. So one of the grand mark in Champagne, which is a blend of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier, from all the best top sites in Champagne. And of course, it's going to be the biggest proportion of the cocktail again, and therefore we need to choose wisely. This champagne, it's been aged in the cellar for a while, and what it gives this extra, again, caramelly flavor, more yeasty, bready note, so it kind of complements as well the flavors of the cognac. And the beauty of this champagne is got this citrusy undertone, like an orange kind of type of flavor, which is exactly going to match our garnish of the champagne cocktail, which is an orange peel.
It's amazing to think, really, seeing as he mentioned the Mum champagne in that writing. Essentially, we are drinking history here, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly the same champagne and ingredients that was mentioned. I think that's amazing.
Can I?
And it must be a bit confusing, though, that this is called the champagne cocktail, I feel. So if you went to a bar and you said the champagne cocktail, every good bartender worth their salt would know it's that one.
Yeah, no, sure. And you go again. Like I want to bring out a bit my sommelier side. So what wine and food pairing? What food pairing shall we have with a champagne cocktail? Well, we have a bit more sweetness, as we said about the sugar cube. We have the brut champagne, so low residual sugar that is going to balance out the sweetness brought by the sugar. But I love to see something maybe slightly more spices, like maybe a spiced vegetable curry with it, or maybe like some garlic prawns, something quite refreshing, but still like that's going to leave you a lovely aftertaste, but with a bit more power rather than the wine pairing that we did with the French 75.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm getting hungry now. Let's move on to the second modern pour.
Okay, so when we talk about classic champagne cocktails, or in general classic serves or champagne serves, we always think about flute. There's a reason for that. Obviously, the flute is one of the best ways to be drinking champagne. It's not the only way, but there's a reason why it was created this way. That being said, a couple years ago, I was lucky enough to go to Ruinart in Champagne. And one of the things I noticed were all of the paintings who were back from the 1800s, 1700s, where a lot of people would be drinking champagne in punches. That was very popular back in the day because obviously champagne was there to show a good time to your guest, and to also show a good time to your guest, you would need to show as much wealth as you had. So back then it was spices, sugar, citrus, any kind of ice as well, because obviously back then when you didn't have a freezer into every household, you didn't have freezers at all.
Forget back then, that sounds like a great party now.
Already. But back then having something over ice also showed that you could afford ice, which was something very precious and not as common as it is today. So I was surprised to see that, and looking back into history, punches were very popular, but the bourgeoisie in Paris actually thought that spirits and high-strength spirits such as rum, gin, that were very popular back then, actually was a little bit too strong on the breath, which is very funny because they drank loads of absinthe, and if you've ever drank absinthe, that's very strong on the breath. But so they thought to be a little bit more delicate, we're going to replace the spirit by champagne. And again, it was about long pours, so it would create loads of bubbles, so it was super fun. And going back to what is collet and introducing people, we don't always want a drink served straight up, or we don't always want a drink that looks like a glass of champagne. So I thought creating champagne served on ice for like a hot summer day is also like what you may be craving. So we're going to take, again, the same structure as a classic champagne cocktail. So in this case, I am using Hennessy as a cognac. Just a bit.
And you're using kind of more the traditional coupe shape here.
Yeah, so you could have it on the rocks. I'm going to add a couple ice cubes. There you go. A little bit of what I called a punch syrup. So in there we have cardamom, macrate lime leaves. What else did I put? Nettles, nettle tea, cardamom, and hibiscus, hence the color, which makes it beautiful. And one dash of peach bitters to enhance the fruity side of the drink. And Ruinart.
And this is the Blanc de Blanc, is that correct?
Yes.
So why do you choose the Blanc de Blanc over the
other ones? Genuinely, because it's one of my favorite champagnes.
It is a great
and I knew I was going to be able to drink one of them. So I was like, if I'm going to choose, it's got to be this one. And also because the drink already has, quite a lot of elements to it. I wanted to keep it like really refreshing, and to me, it's one of the most refreshing expressions that they have.
I feel like this is always
done
stressful.
That part before, shouldn't I?
It's always stressful.
I promise I'm a professional. I do this for a living.
It's all good. And when we think about kind of champagne and bars, it's all about the theatre of the bar, right? That's why I was mentioning the garnish or the glasses, etc. How important is that theatre aspect when it comes to serving in a bar?
Oh, super important. I mean, sorry, I spoke quickly, but yeah.
No, please go.
People always like to come. Like, how many people have asked, "Can I have the drink that comes in a pineapple at a festival?" You don't know what's gone in a pineapple. You don't care. You want the pineapple. That's the truth. And here we go.
And how do you feel people react to, obviously you've mentioned your bar is all about kind of not being stuck up and pretentious, but how do you find people react to ice in champagne?
It's a bit like everything. Everybody's got opinions. And if you don't want ice in champagne, we have served straight up as well. We can make it straight up. It's a drink that can be made straight up, but it's good to have options for every time of the year and any person that comes through the door, that they don't have to drink champagne in one way. At the end of the day, you're the one purchasing the drink. So as long as the drink is good and balanced, you should be able to drink it however you want, whether it's at home, but also in bars.
Fantastic.
And then our role is to make sure that it tastes as good as it could taste.
Great. Has everyone had the second one there? So, any questions at this point of any of the drinks or to the ladies about any aspects of their work? Over here.
There's one. There's a question. Aleesha,
There.
Oh, we'll come to you afterwards. I've got you.
Oh, great.
What was in that punch mix you were doing? That mix of the last cocktail. What was in that aromatic mix?
So you mean the first one?
The second one, I think.
The second
it was.
one?
Yeah.
So it was 10 of the syrup, 15 of Hennessy, 1 dash of peach bitters, and top up with champagne.
And I think we had a question, gentleman over here in the blue shirt.
What would you suggest to keep the champagne as sparkling as possible, especially when you're pouring in some garnishes or ice or even a sugar cube? This will create an nutrition point.
How to keep... Well, in a case of a drink that would have quite a lot of ice or be a bit shorter, one would expect people to drink it quite quickly. And also... Yeah, that's about it. That's what I have to say. I think in those drinks, it's not the sparkliness. I don't know if that's the word I was trying to find. The sparkling aspect of the drink that you're looking for is the refreshing aspect. So when you think about champagne, you always think about bubble. Like when you pick your favorite champagnes, bubble size is always super important. But when you mix it with in a cocktail, there's all the elements that come to it. So it's the acidity level, it's the flavor profile of the champagne. It's all of that needs to be highlighted. And obviously, yes, when it gets poured over ice, you know that you're going to get less of the bubbleness. I need to find the real word for this. Bubbleness.
Like
sparkliness.
mousse.
Yes.
Effervescence.
Any more
You're going to get
questions?
this.
I've got one. Which champagne cocktail do you wish you'd invented?
Wow, nice. Well, because I'm a big fan of champagne cocktail, then I would say champagne cocktail.
The champagne cocktail.
The champagne cocktail, yeah.
Fair enough. And
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm boring. That's why I'm doing the traditional dish. And but I will say champagne cocktail, yeah.
Fair enough. And Emily?
Does it have to be a classic?
No.
No? Artesian a couple of years ago did a burnt butter and champagne drink, and it was one of those drinks when I went there and I thought, I'm so sad somebody created that drink because that means I will never be able to create it. And one of those drinks that was just so good and so satisfying that you're like, yeah.
And what was it?
Burnt butter.
Oh, okay.
There's a clarified, distilled, like artesian style, but then topped up with champagne. And I thought that was one of the best serves I ever had.
Amazing. And for both of you, obviously, you know, you're working in slightly different establishments,
Yeah.
you know, classic and modern. What trends are you seeing towards cocktails and champagne, if at all, at the moment?
What, sorry?
What trends are you seeing? Are you seeing the emergence of anything, or are you seeing things kind of dying back?
Well, to be honest, like wine, like on the wine side, something which is very popular now is like champagne with a really little residual sugar. So they're always going to try to find more like customers, like more maybe brut nature, like between 0 and 3 grams per liter, something really dry. While if you think about like 56 years ago, usually all the champagne were made more in a demi-sec style because people used to like the sugar in the champagne, while now they're going for the other end, like the other extreme. So this is a trend. And what I like, there is another trend which I can see in my restaurant, like people likes to start with champagne, but also likes to finish with champagne their meal, which is lovely to see. It's just like, oh, we had a lovely dinner, let's have another glass of champagne, celebrate, close this evening like in a beautiful way.
And are they ending with a dry champagne as well, or a sweeter style of
dry champagne. I tried to propose Moscato d'Asti, which is this spumante with a little bit more sugar. No one likes it, but it's still on the list, but I love champagne as well, so I'm really glad.
Amazing. And is anyone matching a champagne to every course yet, or is that just...
I mean, I like to match champagne with different courses, you said.
Yeah, so like the starter
exactly.
champagne.
So, for example, like with a starter, it always depends. Like champagne, now English sparkling wine is absolutely like really popular at the restaurant. So it's great to see like different types and matching with like different types of food, of course. But people are requesting it, yeah, definitely.
And on the more modern side, are you seeing kind of a trend in anything particular? People asking for new things that they've seen maybe elsewhere?
Something that's very popular at the moment, and definitely because of bars being shut for the past year, was ready to drink. So canned cocktails have been really popular. And the tricky part with champagne is that obviously it's like if you make it somewhere else, it can't really be called champagne. So I'd be really looking forward to a champagne house actually making a ready-to-serve like canned drink topped up with champagne. That's something I'd be looking forward to seeing. Yeah,
champagne in a can.
We've seen it done with other spirit categories, and that could be really cool.
Gosh, that would be amazing. I'd love to see that. Do you have any more questions at all? All right, so you were all given a blue and a green card. So green is for classic and blue to match Emily's hair is for modern. So if we can all lift the one that you preferred up on the count of 3 and see who has won the battle. All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is tight. Oh, God, I'm going to have to count, aren't I? Hang on. 15, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, just pipped it by 2.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a drum roll. Well done.
Well done.
Yeah. Half of my team is here, so they better have picked me. Like,
That's amazing, fantastic. Well, there you go. I hope you really enjoyed this Imbibe Live champagne cocktail masterclass. I hope it's spurred you on with a little bit of pep for the rest of the day. Fantastic way to start. Thank you so much to Melania. Thank you so much to Emily
Thank you.
and the rest of the crew. I've been Aleesha Hansel. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day.